Leader of the King of the Mountains competition here, trying to get away. Obviously a little bit worried by that sprint that Chris Lillywhite has got at the top of the climbs. He wants to get away, and look at the speed as he drops down here before we come to the climb of Kegs Hill. He's trying to slip the bunch so he can get the maximum points at this next King of the Mountains prize.
Well, this has been one of our surprises in the first 2 days of the Kellogg's Tour this week, and that is Mauro Ginetti of Italy, because he was battling it out on the mountains yesterday with Chris Lillywhite until finally he scored the big point on Rosedale Chimney. And now he's still having a little dig here, but it looks to me as though Ginetti is going to be joined by the whole field, and it's the cast team here who have been very, very active. This looks like Stephen Hodge coming up on Ginetti, the Australian man who's having a good ride himself this week alongside his leader, Sean Kelly. The blue flag you can see there indicating the start of the climb itself, and then at the top, of course, they have a white flag indicating the finishing line.
Well, as we look at the back of their bunch here, the riders are coming to the bottom of the climb, and we're back up at the front with Ginetti trying to jump away again here to try and consolidate his lead in this King of the Mountains competitions. But there he's neutralised by Sean Yates. He's going again down the outside with Stephen Hodge going for this hotspot sprint as well, and Henri Abadi just going past Hodge to come to the top of the King of the Mountains here, and it looks as if Abadi's led out for a long way with Hodge in second place there.
Well, it's a very wide main road climb here. Abadi's made his move very early on. Hodge has got his wheel, and Hodge checks that he's got a gap on the back wheel of Abadi. Abadi now has made the big sprint, and now he's got to settle down and try and survive till that white flag on the top of the climb of Keckskill. Hodge is waiting as long as possible before he comes out of the slipstream, and it looks as though, in fact, it's Ginetti himself who's had to close the gap, and guarding the defence of Stephen Hodge is his teammate Sean Kelly. He's just behind. Chris Lillywhite is now up too, and Malcolm Elliott giving none of them in that yellow jersey any chance at all of breaking away. Ginetti now goes for the line on the road. Ginetti in the middle in the white, but it's Hodge on the left of the picture and Kelly on the right. Kelly, Hodge, and on the far left, Lillywhite coming. Chris Lillywhite is coming and he's going to get it. Lillywhite gets maximum points on the top of the climb. Second there, Stephen Hodge, and third, Sean Kelly, who does seem now to be a challenger in the King of the Mountains. So the field now settling in after that sprint at the top of the climb as they drop away, and there seems to be no anxious faces here. Look at that, Stephen Roach, things going well for him this week, proudly wearing #1 as the champion of the world at last this season. Dave Mann, the next rider in the Rally Banana team to have a little attack. Dave Mann opening a good gap here. We haven't really seen a serious attack all day. The sprints, yes, have been hotly contested, but no one has tried to break away. This is Dave Mann going away here. We've swung away now. Skipton is on Dave Mann's back as we head over now towards Silsden and Keighley, cutting our way through Yorkshire, heading towards the spine of the countryside down the Pennines. And Dave Mann knows exactly what lies ahead of him. He lives in Leeds now, but he does come from Bradford. And Mann now has built his lead of 2 minutes and 35 seconds, and at the feeding station here, it looks, Paul, as though the bunch aren't too interested yet.
Well, the riders in the main field have got a lot to worry about, because they're thinking more about the climbs coming up later on. As we come back to the climb of Dog and Gun here, we've got the Rally Banana team on the front trying to slow down affairs as we come back up here to Dave Mann, who's keeping his tempo going, not really trying to win too much, but what he's trying to do is build up this lead as much as possible as we get confirmation of his lead coming up to 4 minutes 50. Dave Mann, the regional today, as the French would say, the man who lives in this area, probably trying to show himself off to all his friends and teammates and club mates, everyone from the area who's come out to see him.
Well, coming up towards the top of the Dog and Gun for Dave Mann, 51 miles covered, by the way, when he crossed that white line there. So he's not yet halfway on the stage. We're looking back down at this sharp climb here, which is just on a small road outside of Keighley in Yorkshire, of course, and it looks to me as though the main field are not breaking up over much at the moment here. We've got the chasing group settling in. Elliott's never far away in that yellow jersey. Neither, we have to say, is this rider from Switzerland, Gianetti, as he's now trying to take second place. Lillywhite's taken his wheel too. There's quite a rivalry developing now between these two riders. Lillywhite from Putney in London and Gianetti from Switzerland. Gianetti going clear, 100 metres to the line now. Lillywhite coming up on his shoulder, and it looked to me there, in fact, as though Gianetti did move over to his right. Lillywhite certainly didn't like it, eased him out of the way, and that might well be an infringement. Let's take a look at that again. There's no doubt there that Gianetti did come off his line. It's a question of whether he was doing it to block Lillywhite or not. And I can tell you now by that result, the judges thought the answer was not, and they've relegated Lillywhite to third place. So they're on the way down now here, and it looks here as though Gianetti is still not too pleased with the attitude of Chris Lillywhite. And a rivalry which may be in the embryo stages, with still a lot of riding to come over this week. Well, back now with Dave Mann, approaching the outskirts of Halifax, and this is the cobble climb, or it will be in a few moments, believe me, of the Shipton Wall. I've no idea, Paul, who told the organisation about this climb, but Dave Mann would like to know.
I think he would. I think it may well be one of the local journalists. As we look at it from the helicopter there, as Dave Mann is now coming onto the cobble section on the little the hairpin bend here. It's about 1 in 3 in this corner. Dave Mann is really struggling, looking for the easiest road over the cobbles here, trying to find the flattest section that he can.
Well, they talk about cycling being the big free show. The crowd have loved this now. They're being treated to Mann finding the smoother route up the climb. He switched off the cobblestones onto the pavement in the side of the road. Push 1 or 2 of the spectators there are now viewing from behind the bushes. And Mann comes back onto the road and off again as quickly as he can. This is really a very steep climb. You can see Yorkshire dropping away far below off to the right there. A very, very pretty climb, although Dave Mann may not agree with that terminology. And Mann's lead, by the way, is coming down, and it looks to me now as though we've got a fine example of tempo riding on the climb here by 2 riders from ADR. They're riding behind Keith Reynolds from the ML team. Let's have a look along the bunch then. We've got Mike Doyle there, white jersey 2 passing down. I think it was Nick Barnes. And 1 or 2, that's one of the Spanish riders. And on the far side there, Sean Kelly, Adrian Timmis here too. And it looks to me as though that the CAS team are beginning to close down the gap here on Dave Mann. His lead now, we believe, is collapsing rather dramatically, somewhere in the region of 2.5 minutes, and the crowd now trying to lift Dave Mann. There's confirmation of that lead, 2 minutes 35 seconds indeed it is. So Mann coming to the top. Well, his lead is dropping from almost 5 minutes, but he's picking up a lot of points in the King of the Mountains today. And if he looks to be struggling, then just look at these here. Darrell Webster on the outside in the blue sleeves there, a little bit lower down the cobblestones as Dave Mann continues on the climb. He is climbing strongly, Paul, and let's face it, he is your team man. You're the manager of Rally Banana team. You must have been quite pleased with this attack today. I
was very pleased as we watched Dave just going over the top here, but it wasn't really a tactical move. It was more something to show himself off to his fellow Yorkshiremen and try and get himself seen by his wife, who was waiting at the top of the climb.
Well, he was certainly clear at the top of the climb. Well, this is still the field breaking up here on this climb. It's turning out to be an excellent climb from the spectators' viewpoint, because they're seeing the race much longer. Sean Yates here, a little bit further down the climb, because he's not a climber. He's very much a strong rider. He's not a specialist in the hills. That's for a much lighter man than Sean Yates. There you can see the climb down amongst the trees. Look at it closely and you'll see the riders. They're spread out all the way along it.
Well, these riders here, as you can see, Malcolm Elliott there just behind Chris Lillywhite and Joey McLaughlin, one of the Madios, and Sean Kelly at the front here. The riders finding the easiest way up. That's obviously the little bit of tarmac that's down the side, preferring to ride on the tarmac and not on the cobbles, because it really is difficult to keep this gear going. Again, a massive gear that the riders have picked today.
Interesting point, Paul. Mark Madio climbing there in those red shorts, because the judges have already fined him, I think it's £10 for wearing them. international colours are black, and you probably knew that.
Well, they are. It is illegal, but sometimes sponsors' whims require the riders to do things that are slightly illegal. I know it's against the rules, but in a few years' time, maybe people will be wearing red, blue, and pink shorts to come into line with some of the other sports.
Well, that's great. That will really help the commentators, Paul, if we get different coloured shorts as well as jerseys. There we go then. This is Sean Kelly here. He's the dashing boy in black, followed by Madio, who is in the red. Over the top of the climb then of Shibden Wall, they go straight across the road here. There's confirmation of that climb. Dave Mann ahead by 2.5 minutes. Sean Kelly and Yvonne Madio was there in third place. Now we are back now with the leader. We're climbing away from Brighouse now, looking down the Elland bypass. And I think if you've got good eyesight, down there you can see 2 police motorcyclists, and just behind them is in fact the group, and they are approaching Man now at a great speed. So it looks to me, Paul, as though the word has gone out, we've got to close down this break.
Well, Dave's built up a very big lead, but now once we've got into the more strategic area of the race, the climbs, Shibden Wall and the climb of Holme Moss to come, we can see that Dave Mann's lead is coming down drastically to about 1 minute 35 now.
So Dave Mann still in the lead, the bunch closing fast. The next obstacle, the climb of Holme Moss. Join us soon.
Welcome back to the Tour of Britain on the banks of the River Holme in the village of Holme Firth. The village, in fact, made famous by the television series The Last of the Summer Wine, and this is actually where they filmed The Lady with the Wrinkled Stockings. Well, today the village is given over to the pace and excitement of the second stage of the Tour of Britain. We've just seen a tremendous ride by Dave Mann from Bradford. He took a 4-minute lead into Shibden Wall. That lead has been cut, and Kelly and Elliott are in the chasing pack as they prepare now for Holme Moss, the toughest climb of the race yet. Let's go back now to Phil Liggett.
Indeed it is, Paul. There it is, the high spot of the 1988 Tour of Britain at 2,000 feet, and the cars indicating the thousands who are lining its slopes. Dave Mann coming away now from Holme Firth. That is the entry point to the climb. His lead being cut dramatically by the chase now being led by Sean Kelly's cast team. There's confirmation of the gap down to 1 minute and 33 seconds. Well, if Dave Mann can just hold this group off on this climb, he can see Manchester from the top of it, and then he might get a little bit of inspiration. Is it possible, Paul?
Well, he's been away for a long time now. He's going to have to get over the top of this climb with at least a good minute in hand to try and stay away if he wants to try and win this stage into Manchester.
I wonder if he's regretting now breaking away, because he's been in the lead largely for the benefit of the home crowds. Remembering he lives in Leeds, but he comes from Bradford, and they've all been out on the climbs around Keighley shouting the name of Dave Mann. Now, a trouble here at the back of the group for Sean Yates. A very, very quick wheel change indeed. That wheel change should have taken no more than 9 seconds, and Yates being pushed back into the fray. It shouldn't be too serious for Sean. He'll be back in the race, lying, don't forget, in third place overall. A few seconds lost could be absolute disaster for him. Further up the climb then, a little bit of applause there from that small group of people as Dave Mann makes his way up to the mast there in the far distance. That is the top of the climb. This is the main field now, commencing the slopes at the bottom of Holme Moss. And of the 77 riders, it does seem we have quite a large field regrouped since the climb over Shibden Wall. Well, I must say, Dave Mann here isn't looking too happy, Paul, and I'm wondering if, in fact, he's going to call it a day on the climb. He's very worried about the back groups.
Well, as you were saying that, Phil, he was looking over his shoulder, and it can't be very far back down the climb until he sees these riders. He's obviously beginning to worry about how far up he is now, because he's constantly looking over his shoulder to see where the main field are going to come from.
Dave Mann, who has had 8 wins as a professional rider since turning professional in 1986, in the village of Holme now, which is the last village before you are out onto the moor itself. There now the gap at 1 minute and 5 seconds. When it comes down to 30 seconds or less, the chief commissaire, the referee, will be sending those vehicles away from behind Dave Mann. That's when you know trouble is looming, and there it is, the whole field beginning the tempo climb together. It'll change in a few minutes' time as the roads continue their ascent. This is really a most difficult climb, and Dave Mann, I think, will testify to that now. He's trying to keep a rhythm going here, but his legs must be aching. He's been out in front now for the best part of 40 miles since he broke away. It's a long way to stay ahead of the riders over some of the toughest countryside. Breaking clear when the hills began. He hasn't been out of them at all since, and the meadows now dropping away below him there. One or two riders beginning to struggle too at the back of the race. 42 there is Marnix Lemire at 33 years of age, one of the oldest men in the race, and surprisingly only turned professional 2 years ago. Number 78 is one of the Michelin Highlight boys. That's Ian Binder, local man, going home to Manchester, by the way. We're back with the man leaving his native county of Yorkshire, as he will when he goes over the top of Holme Moss. Dave Mann. And he's still keeping his composure here, because don't forget, if he is resigning himself to capture, he still has to finish the stage, so he isn't going to use up too much of his energy. The mast you can see right on the horizon is the top of the climb.
Dave here on the bottom of the steepest part of the climb here. The car's still behind him, so his lead must still be up above the 30-second mark as he concentrates. Flip back to the main field here. You can see on the right-hand side there, Steve Jockin suffering a little bit, the reigning British professional road race champion from Eveready team. On the left-hand side, that looks as if Ian Binder, the local boy, has managed to get back up there. It looks very much as if the Isoglass rider there was Dirk Clarice, who's trying to stay in contact as we flip back to the front here. And I wouldn't think it'll be very long before Dave Mann can look back down the climb and see the chasers trying to come back up to him.
So Mann now going out onto the exposed part of the climb. All the villages behind him now. The village of Holme has gone. He'll have a couple of sharp hairpin bends, and then we should get some idea of the crowd on this road as well, as Mann keeps his rhythm going very well here now. News, in fact, reaching us that the breakaway is beginning to move clear. And look at this. Mann is in all sorts of trouble. Now he's gone off the road there. It appears to me he slipped his gears, or they jumped off the sprockets, because his legs are definitely locked up. Paul, what do you think happened?
I think as he was changing from the large to the small chainring there, what quite often happens with a big difference between the two chainrings, the chain can jam a little bit, and Dave had to back pedal slightly to drop onto the smaller chainring to get up this big climb of Holme Moss.
Well, that's disheartening to say the least, and if he had any doubt now, he's convinced himself that he's going to be caught. 20 seconds, there's the leading bunch coming up there now, and there is Jerry McDade, one of the chief referees, indicating that it's all over and everybody is out of the gap. So Dave Mann, a brave attempt. He's kept this race alive, in fact, through the early hills today, but the big one of Holme Moss has proved his downfall, and he knows now that the whole field is coming up behind him.
Well, he's made a very brave effort today, Dave. He's shown his fellow countymen that he's been able to get up to the front, sewn his jersey off, but it looks as if it was a doomed failure, as the main field are coming up now, starting to accelerate for one of the most strategic points of today's stage, and that's Holme Moss. On the right-hand side of the picture there, you can just see Chris Walker coming up. On the left-hand side, it looks like, I think it's Steve Sefton from the Percy Bilton team, and in the middle, Mike Doyle from the PMS team, setting the pace as the bunch come past Dave Mann and leaving back to drift into oblivion.
Yes, indeed. Well, that's the hard part of professional cycling. You've made your effort, it didn't work, now you pay the price. Chris Walker then, from Sheffield, heading up towards the top of the climb. He'll be turning right at the bottom, by the way. If he turned left, he'd be back home in Sheffield. Now, this is the story here at the back of the race, and the pressure at the front is causing the riders to drift off the back of the field. The man with the tempo on the left is Mike Doyle with the blue quarter sleeves, and on the right there, that's Chris Walker. And Robert Miller in the white banded crash helmet there with the dark glasses on, not too far away. A born climber indeed, Miller. He, of all the people, will be enjoying the ascent of Holme Moss today. And this rider at the back, number 49, is Andy Johnson. And he'll be counting the pedal revs to the top, because he knows if he can limit his losses in the next half mile or so, he'll get back into this group on the descent towards Manchester.
The rider's still keeping quite a steady tempo at the front, Phil. There's still quite a long way to go. It's a very long climb, this climb of Holme Moss, and they've still got something like 2 miles to go. As you can see, moving up to the right-hand side of the picture, Stephen Roach, the reigning world champion, who amazingly is setting the tempo on these climbs when after only 5 or 6 races in competition, you wouldn't expect him to have the strength there. And who knows what Stephen's going to do later on in the year when he gets back to his form.
Well, this is a fact-finding mission for Stephen Roach this week. He wants to prove to himself that he has the ability still in those legs, which have given him a lot of problems this year with the knee problem. And now it really does seem he's coming back to his old fighting self. 4th overall at the moment, in a very good position to springboard to the yellow jersey. Now we're back again with the straggling riders, 1 or 2. Bernard Richard there at the back, one of the Fagor teammates here of Roach. He's not enjoying his Tour of Britain so far. He's been in trouble every day. Chris Walker looking very, very comfortable indeed on the climb. Walker was the winner, by the way, of the TV Time Sprint Series last year, and that is a competition at the moment between Elliott and, look at this, we've got an attack by Gianetti as he tries to go clear. He's the man of the mountain so far. He's now going to make the others come to him, or is he? Because Gianetti going well clear here. I would have expected to have seen Lillywhite react to this because Lillywhite has been the rider in close rivalry with Gianetti, and today we've seen the arrival in this competition too of Sean Kelly and Stephen Hodge, 2 riders of the cast team. They've been challenging on the early climbs today. This is the big one. It's a first category climb carrying maximum points at the top, and Gianetti is going to want to win it, but so too are quite a few other riders.
Well, what a climber this Gianetti is proving himself to be. As we come to the back of the field, it looks very much as if it's Jack Hanegraaff on the right-hand side from Toshiba, with Henry Manders just slipping off the back of the field there. As we come up, we can see one of the ADR riders, Willie Willems, just struggling to keep in contact, and it looks as if Mike Doyle from the PMS has come from the front to the back.
One easy motion. Well, let's hope he can get back into the group, as we're now back with the leaders. Gianetti here doing very, very well. It looks like Aberdeen joining him on his shoulder there in that white jersey. And so we got Gianetti in the front, Aberdeen, 2 great climbers, these boys, and they could be figuring in the top flight of world cycling in the next 12 months. Aberdeen here, the king of the mountains in 2 major races in Europe this year, and now trying to challenge here in Britain. And we've also got Yvon Madio, I think it is, in the red shorts for the Toshiba team coming up on the wheel there of Aberdeen. So Gianetti made that attack. He's paying the price a little bit now. We've got an attack here by Stephen Hodge. Hodge is also going now. And as they come up to towards the top of the climb, this is the steep part. Gianetti has done remarkably well here to take a second wind and catch up with the back wheel of the Australian Hodge. And indeed, going again, the second kick from Gianetti. Hodge manages to just find the strength and try and latch on. And this is the steep part now of the climb, and I should imagine at the back of the race, and here we are, there is all sorts of trouble. There's Sean Yates. He didn't like the climb of Shibden Wall, and it doesn't seem to be enjoying the climb of Holme Moss either.
Well, as Sean Yates comes back past Chris Walker here, Sean's having a lot of problems today because I think he's had a bike change because of a broken frame.
Back at the front, Gianetti now taking to the heights of Holme Moss, still finding plenty of rhythm here because the climb is nearly over. As Gianetti continues the climb, far over his shoulder there, you can see the cars out into infinity, and the riders too, by the way, are now split up all the way down the climb. Very, very good final push here by Gianetti. It looks as though he should have this now in the bag as he goes up towards the top of Holme Moss. Good climb, and the crowd appreciating this very, very much indeed. 1 or 2 of you have told us how the crowd narrowed the race down for the riders, but believe me, it doesn't slow them down at all. Gianetti then coming clear, all the cheers in his ear, as we see Stephen Roach, and number 4 is Robert Miller. Roach is just ahead of him. This is the sort of leading group now that's trying to keep in contact with this man, Gianetti, as he goes up towards the climb. And you can see from our helicopter the massive crowd and the damage being caused by this rider here, Gianetti. But surprisingly, it looks like Aberdeen is sprinting across the gap. That is a tremendous move by Henri Aberdeen. And now, can he take Gianetti in the sprint for the top? Another rider coming over the gap, and it looks to me as though Sean Kelly himself is joining the leaders, so Giannetti has faded right on the final few yards of the summit, and Kelly is coming clear and gets the preem. So Sean Kelly then is the leader over the top of Holme Moss. Confirmation, Giannetti in second place, Henri Abadie is in third slot, and he gets 8 points towards the mountains. So all the riders now beginning to regroup as they begin what will be a 60-mile-an-hour descent off the top of the mountain and heading down towards the valley below at Woodhead, and then on the road to Manchester. There's still a lot of racing to come. All the climbs are over, but join us right after the break.
And welcome back to the final part of day 2 of the Tour of Britain. We're in the city of Manchester, where a packed crowd await the riders after the sunshine in York. But certainly the day's racing has put a sparkle in everyone's eyes. We had that early and brave breakaway by Dave Mann. He was then caught on Holme Moss, and now we have a leading pack of 30 riders awaiting to approach the city. 5 times round the city of Manchester, let's rejoin Phil Liggett.
And there's the finish line down below us there in Albert Square, in the heart of the city of Manchester. The circuit now occupied by the leading riders here as they come through now with 5 full laps of the circuit to go. And the field generally regrouped, some 41 riders in fact being led here at the moment by Mike Doyle, are all together. So Mike Doyle on the front, followed by Steve Jones. And the PMS Doors team anxious to do well here today because this is their base, and I believe their sponsors are on site. And they also have another reason to do well, because after the day's fighting amongst themselves in the TV time sprints, if Nick Barnes can score well on the last sprint, which is at the end of the next circuit, then he will be the overall leader of that competition. Because remember, today he wears the white jersey of leader, that's true, but in fact it's Malcolm Elliott in the yellow jersey who is on top of the TV time sprint classification. So a good piece of teamwork here, Paul.
Well, this is again a piece of teamwork by the PMS Doors team. The 2 riders taking turns to ride at the front. On the front, you've got Mike Doyle swinging over here to ask Steve Jones to come through and keep the speed high, because they'd like to get Nick Barnes into a good position to try and take this hotspot sprint competition.
Steve Jones then, a late replacement, remember, for Shane Sutton, who sadly broke his collarbone literally 2 days before this race began. And Steve Jones really deserved his place anyway, because he was third this year in the milk race. Now the riders then a little bit in the dark as they go under that bridge. This is a very good circuit here in the centre of the city, if not the best circuit of all, because it's wide, lots of room for manoeuvre, and plenty of places to make a surprise attack. And I think that's why the pace being kept high here by the PMS Doors boys. The white jersey of Nick Barnes is the one we should keep a keen eye out for, because he'll be looking for the maximum points at the end of the lap. I'm a little bit surprised to see such a big field, I must admit, after the race today. But now the sprint, by the way, is on. This is John Clay, and that is Barnes, his teammate in his slipstream. So Clay playing here the perfect teammate, or is he going for it himself? Because John Clay has started with a great sprint here, and Barnes is struggling to keep up on him as we go over the square here. In fact, John Clay put his brakes on there to allow Nick Barnes to go through in first place. So with 4 laps to go, Barnes gets the TV time sprint, and that means tonight he'll be the overall leader of the competition. And there's the confirmation: Barnes, Clay and Sean Yates. But it took John Clay, he went so quick he had to put his brakes on and allow Barnes to take maximum points. Barnes, Paul, trying to continue the attack.
Well, a good piece of teamwork by Jonathan Clay there, putting the brakes on to let Nick Barnes come through. And Nick, having seen the gap that he'd got, he's carried on over the top to try and come away and sneak away from this group. But you can see straight away the chase being organised behind by the Fagor boys, as it was yesterday. And I think I could just see coming to the front there, Robert Miller. In second place, Sean Yates. Again, they're whipping up the pace because they don't want any breaks going away on this circuit, because they want to keep Malcolm Elliott's place at the top of the general classification safe. And why not another stage win for Malcolm Elliott today?
And just look at that long line of riders indicating the pace now being set at the front by the Fagor team. Robert Miller and Sean Yates, they're the first two. It's Pensek in third place there now. Ronan Pensek lying in 7th place overall, and surprisingly only second best man in the Z Peugeot Halfords team, because of course Joey McLaughlin started the day in 2nd place overall this morning and edging his way nearer his home city of Liverpool. Robert Miller, I think, beginning to really enjoy this Tour of Britain this year. He didn't like all the pressures of the Tour de France, where he was the team leader, but Stephen Roche is back in this race and taking all those pressures away from him, and he's getting on with his racing, and he really is doing very well. He's not racing for the King of the Mountains. He's racing more in defence of Malcolm Elliott, who's turning out to be the team leader this week in the leader's yellow jersey.
Well, Phil, it's amazing to notice how Robert Miller's handling himself this year in the Tour of Britain, because it's a completely different Robert Miller to the one we saw in the Tour de France. Bike racing is 90% morale, and Robert's morale is definitely better than it was in the Tour de France this year, when he finished second at the top of the stage to Gouze-Neige. He said he didn't have much morale for racing, and here he is fighting at the front. He's got the yellow jersey in his team, and he's a different man altogether.
I absolutely agree, Paul. And now he's riding around the circuit here in 2nd place for the moment, but the Yates-Miller tandem at the front here has kept this pace so high. No one has had the strength nor the inclination, despite the proximity of the finish of this race, to try and sprint off the front of the pack. And if you look at this long line now, we're into the last 3 laps of the race, so the next 4 or 5 minutes or so is all that it will be. And the whole field, 41 riders there are in this big bunch, but we understand that the rest of the race is varying in time gaps from about 7 minutes to as much as 17 minutes behind today.
Well, Robert here back on the front, and you see how these two riders are sharing turns to break into the wind. Sean Yates slipping back a little bit, looking a little bit worse for wear today because he's had a very hard day, changed his bike, had a wheel change, and he's been having to keep up. As we come back to this group here, these are in fact stragglers who are going to be something like 5 or 6 minutes behind the leading group here, as we come back to Robert Miller, who's doing his stint at the front with Sean Yates tucked in 2nd place. In a minute, as you see Robert changing gear, he'll swing over to let Sean Yates come through and do his little turn in the wind.
Well, if you watched our preview programme, Paul Sherwin told us all about these sort of tactics that we should see, and now they're being clearly demonstrated by the Fagor team. It's a simple tactic if you're born with ability to race a bike at 40+ miles an hour for hour after hour. You just get on the front, you go as fast as you can, and nobody comes past. And so the long, thin line indicates that the elastic being stretched here by 2 of the world's, not just Britain's, greatest bike riders, Robert Miller on the left and Sean Yates, who's now taking up the pacemaking yet again. Stephen Roche isn't too far away. It's interesting to note that Pensek continually rides in 3rd or 4th place in this line, might well be looking for the win. And of course, remember a year ago when we came into Manchester in the first Kellogg's Tour of Britain from Newcastle, it was in fact Joey McLaughlin who was the winner here then. He's not too far away either, and McLaughlin naturally went on to win the race overall. So we still have Elliott on the front. I beg your pardon, we still have Yates on the front. Elliott's the man in the yellow jersey, and every time Sean Yates comes around that corner, he almost clips those barriers with his shoulder.
Well, Sean is a little bit of a kamikaze. It's amazing how he just pushes it right to the limit every time. I think it comes a little bit from the fact that in his spare time he likes to ride a motorbike, and he gets a big thrill when he can touch the floor with his knees. I think he's trying to do the same thing with those barriers with his shoulders today. Robert Miller comes through now on Sean to do his little turn at the front, as they're keeping the pace very high. But behind them, what will be happening now is all the sprinters in this group will be moving up to the front to wait for the next 2 laps, because that's when they'll be moving into the limelight to try and steal the glory.
There we are, 2 laps to go as we pass the town hall. And Robert Miller is the rider now doing his little bit at the front. And Yates gritting his teeth here and doing a tremendous job. Pensek there in 3rd place. And then just a little bit further down the line, I think we've got Stephen Roach. I can also see Malcolm Elliott. The green jersey there of Joey McLaughlin. Elliott's chosen to follow Joey McLaughlin's wheel. Elliott in yellow, McLaughlin in the green jersey as points leader. But in fact, for the moment at least, Malcolm Elliott also leads in that competition. And McLaughlin is the guest wearer of the jersey because he is in fact in second overall place as the second most consistent rider in the Tour this year so far. Still, we have the Fagor pair on the front. As we go back a little way, just a little bit further around the circuit, we've got the stragglers coming in. They are in fact just on 6 minutes behind, but the gap on the circuit means that this leading group here is beginning to get them in their sights. Now, this could be a serious situation if the group picks up those stragglers, because it would mean a very, very confusing finish, and that would give the judges, not to say the riders, one or two problems. Let's see, let's hope in fact that doesn't happen. Yates, the man from Forest Row in Sussex, having his best ever season and now doing all of the work here to keep this race together in the hope that Malcolm Elliott in the yellow will do a City of York finish and win here in Manchester in a couple of minutes' time.
Well, it always amazes me the position that Sean Yates has on his bike, because it's so aggressive. He's down, for a big man, he's down so low on that bike, as you can see him rocking his shoulders, getting every last little bit of energy out now. He's gritting his teeth there. Sean, amazingly up there in third place overall, not even thinking about that. His teammate, Malcolm Elliott, is leading. Sean in third place doesn't mean anything to him at all. All it means, all he's worried about is getting Malcolm Elliott there in a suitable position to try and keep hold of this yellow jersey. There you can just see Stephen Roach has now moved past Ponsec into third place, and again, as the day before, we've got the three English-speaking Fagor riders defending the lead of Malcolm Elliott.
Well, coming up towards the bell this time, we're catching glimpsings all of the time of that straggling group not too far ahead. This is going to be touch and go, because if anybody from this group can take a flyer into the left riders, as they would be, the confusion could mean a win for somebody here that will not be Malcolm Elliott. We're on the final lap of the centre of the circuit of Manchester now, and that's Robert Miller still insisting on keeping this pace high, and Sean Yates content too to stay up there in second place. We should be seeing now the progress of the man in yellow, and there he is, Malcolm Elliott, still on the wheel of Joey McLaughlin. The world champion, Stephen Roach, in third place. This is a fine effort by Robert Miller now to keep this line as long and thin as possible to stop anybody lifting the pace anymore, to make progress up the bunch towards the sprint finish. So the order then, Miller on the front, Yates changing up a gear as he stays in second place. We can't quite see it, but there we are. Stephen Roach, the world champion, is third. Malcolm Elliott now taking a close line in fifth place. One or two intruders trying to get through there, and if they do, well, that will cause a little bit of confusion for everybody concerned. This is a great ride here by Robert Miller. You can't take any of this away from him. If Malcolm Elliott wins tonight, the first man he should thank are these two, Miller and Yates, because they're setting it up as best they know how. That is Willie Willems there on the right in the lime green jersey, a younger professional rider who is in trouble on the climb of Holme Moss. He certainly isn't now, he's on the flat roads. Home from home in the centre of Manchester, always the chance, suffer when it hurts and get back in the action when you recover. That's the motto in professional cycling. And still at that barrier there, it's Yates who comes round, keeps it tight, but surely he can't keep this up now. McLaughlin has taken second place. Elliott consistently following Joey McLaughlin there. Won't come off his wheel, stays there in his slipstream. McLaughlin knows it now. McLaughlin looked to his left, didn't see Elliott, looked to his right and saw him. But this now is an attack by the PMS Doors team. It's John Clay going again. John Clay has the advantage now. McLaughlin's chasing Clay. Elliott's chasing McLaughlin. And this is John Clay now trying for the victory. McLaughlin through on the inside first. That first rider's a straggler, looks over his shoulder. So there is a little bit of confusion here, because that's a straggler. This is the race for the line, and McLaughlin's going to get it. Joey McLaughlin repeats history on the line. He did it a year ago. On that occasion, he went on to win the Kellogg's Tour. I wonder what he's thinking now. Joey McLaughlin beats the current leader of the Kellogg's Tour, Malcolm Elliott, and he did it right on the line. Well, here we can see how he did it. He held his line very tight. He kept Elliott on his left shoulder, pushed him wide, and then sprinted for the line. His face tells the story. Victory is Joey's. That's how to do it. So there then is the result. Joey McLaughlin the winner, Elliott pushed back to second, John Clay third, Barnes and Kelly. That's the order.
Joe McLaughlin, many congratulations. I think you quite fancy Manchester.
Yeah, it's one of those places where you just want to win all the time. And I'm so pleased today to win after what it's been like an up and down season for me.
You've been out with injury. This is your first main race. You're obviously delighted to be back.
Oh, fantastic. Like I say, Manchester's something special, as you can see with the crowd, and it's just wonderful to win here.
How difficult was the finish?
It wasn't so difficult, the circuit. It was just the climbs that we had early on today, which were really difficult. But other than that, everything was okay.
You won one of the sprints as well today, didn't you?
Yeah, I won the first sprint, which took a couple of seconds off Elliott's lead. And I've also took some more time, but it's not enough to take over the yellow jersey.
And day 2 is finished. Day 3, you're back home tomorrow.
Yes, I go to Liverpool. I mean, I wish today was Liverpool, and I hope it is. I hope that I win the same today in Liverpool.
Joey, you're back on course. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
And no wins today in the King of the Mountains competition for Mauro Gianetti, but a very consistent day indeed. He keeps his lead in that competition. There's the confirmation, 8-point advantage over Sean Kelly, a great day, and Stephen Hodge as well, a good day for him. Tris Lillywhite is 4th, Malcolm Elliott is 5th. Now we're looking here at the white jersey, and that final sprint here in the city of Manchester was enough for Nick Barnes. He's now got the overall lead by a single point off Malcolm Elliott, with Mark Walsham 3rd. And the overall, and Malcolm Elliott sprays our camera. The yellow jersey stays on the shoulders of Malcolm Elliott, but in fact, Joey McLaughlin has cut his lead to 20 seconds. Sean Yates is 3rd, Roach is 4th, Wegmuller is 5th. And at the end of our second day of the Kellogg's Tour of Britain, this time in the Pennine Hillside, it really didn't make a lot of difference to the overall classification. It so easily might have if they hadn't reacted to that long breakaway by Dave Mann and the Rally Banana team. Well, here in Manchester, Malcolm Elliott tried to make it 3 in a row and win again today. He was pipped on the line by Joey McLaughlin. McLaughlin now sets off towards his home city of Liverpool tomorrow, the long way round, a ride of 117 miles, when he could be home in 40 minutes by a short drive down the East Lancashire Road. The Kellogg's Tour has certainly a lot of racing to do yet, and the challenges might still come from further down the overall classification. The world champion, Stephen Roach, not far behind. Neither is Ronan Pensek, nor of course Sean Kelly. And Rob Holden doing the ride of his life, the 20-year-old rider wearing that leader's red jersey as the best newcomer to this race. Well, as I say, we're off to Liverpool tomorrow. I wonder if Joey McLaughlin will try to turn the tables upside down as he goes home to his city. Join us again for our coverage, day 3 of the Kellogg's Tour of Britain tomorrow night. Until then, goodbye.